There's rumours that sailors do a lot of fucking and drinking.
So you got a wedge of money and off you'd go.
That money got spent in brothels, didn't it? Are you here to spread the caliphate, eradicate the West? Do you think it's okay to have sex with a teenage girl that's just had her first period?
I am extremely angry.
Great Britain at the moment is in a real bad place.
We are in a bad place and it's getting worse. There is no political off-ramp. Things are going to come to a head. I will fight them. People have suffered and died for this country to make it what it is. One country, one culture. That is it.
We don't know when they're going to strike or how they're going to strike.
The silent majority, or as some people like to call it now, the silenced majority. We've been fed a bunch of horseshit. Those absolute tossers in Westminster and in Whitehall aren't doing their jobs.
What's it going to take for the UK to wake up and put a stop to this? Our leadership and our government are scum. For the last year, I've been working with Ryan from Change, and now they're sponsoring our channel so we can keep bringing you these conversations. Change are the #1 mentoring program that teaches you e-commerce step by step where no previous experience is necessary. Whilst working with Change, I've seen life-changing money be made and community members free up more time to spend with their families. A successful business is not built overnight, and you would need to put in the work before reaping the rewards. The more you put in, the more you get out. The community are full of like-minded people, all striving for success and all willing to help each other. Change offer one-on-one training, online courses and group seminars so you get all the support you need to succeed. If you're looking for a new opportunity, get in touch with Ryan via Instagram at RyanJB and he'll take you through all the steps to building your own successful business. Jeff.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm great, and it's great to be here, Liam.
Well, it's a long time coming because before I start tucking into your life as a sailor, many secrets sailors keep. We know this, so let's try and pluck a few out of you. But before, the reason that you're on the show is because every time I go to a Tommy trial, you're also in the viewing gallery.
Yeah.
So you're well aware that the mainstream media report very differently to what actually took place. So
Yes.
I suppose I've never asked you the question, why the avid support for Tommy?
Well, I'm ex-forces. The Bryce Norton thing started off. Do you remember that when certain demographic was spitting on the army and that coming back from places like Afghanistan? And that out of that, as I understand it, Tommy formed an organisation we all have heard of, the EDL. And you hear certain things about this, and it's always couched in the wrong terms, isn't it? You know, it's almost as if we should tolerate all of this sort of stuff. And he wasn't for tolerating it. And as soon as he set this up, he was targeted, as far as I was concerned, and I could see it. And I just followed it through, and I had other things going on in my life. And I sort of just kept an eye on it. But the big thing that changed was after all the bad press and all the things stories said, I watched the Oxford Union address that he gave years ago. And I thought, wait a minute, what's all this about? This guy has got a brain. And that, you know, sort of surprises people. When I say that to them, oh, no, surely not. And I say, no, he has. And he's fast thinking and he's a fast learner. So we should be paying attention to this guy and what he's saying. And it sort of went on from there. And then I was invited to help with setting up this new sort of concept of everything from the pledge to the Unite the Kingdom and all this sort of thing. I went to a meeting and had a chat with him there, and he was just a nice guy, and he was more interested in other people than he was in himself. And I've heard him talk about things like about these girls that have been, you know, hideously treated. And he's in tears about it. And just recently, just for an example, he was on a X Space talking to some cryptocurrency guys who were backing something, and they were going to give him $20,000. And he wanted to make sure that some of that went to some of the girls. And he was really adamant about that. He was going to spend some on a helicopter, if you remember, for the last do. And he was going to make sure some of the money went to the girls. I thought, here is a guy, if he were saying this, if this went out to the world, people would have a completely different view. And I'll tell you, this last court case, I was in there, you were there. One of the barristers said he was found driving a Bentley and he had £14,000 worth of cash in euros and sterling in the car. And I thought, and Are you arresting him for stealing a car? Are you arresting him for no insurance? Are you arresting him for fraud, having cash in the car? No, then why mention it? The next newspaper I saw as I came out of the court that afternoon was splash there, Tommy Robinson found in Bentley with cash. They didn't mention one thing that his defence barrister said about destroying the police case. I can't say any more than that, but I will tell you, they did. That barrister, Mr. Williamson, did a good job as far as I'm concerned, because what he unveiled there should have had the press up in arms. If that had been anyone else sat there in the dock, apart from Tommy, it would have been a completely different thing. The car and the money wouldn't even have featured. It would have been all about the evidence or lack of evidence. In the old days, a barrister would say, so what did you see? And he'd get his notebook out. I was in the high street proceeding in a northerly direction. You remember that sort of thing?
Yeah.
What did these guys have? Nothing. And you just look at it and then you say, nowadays, don't they all have body cam footage? And the best they could produce on the day, and it had to be the defence barrister that introduced it, was some film footage of when he drove in. And even that, you couldn't see clearly what was going on. And so I was just sat there and I was wondering, when is the judge going to say, that's it, I've had enough, goodbye, Tommy?
That's exactly what I was expecting. I mean, I was looking at... We have to be careful what we say.
Yes.
Tread carefully. But the thing was a complete farce. I wish that every single last detail is publicised so the public can see just how much of a farce that was. I mean, it was an embarrassment for the police. I can't believe that when the evidence was passed down to the CPS, now they have to make a decision. The conviction has to be probable based on the evidence they receive.
Yep.
So for them to go through with that, I mean, we saw it with our own eyes and listened to it with our own ears. There's nothing there.
Ezra Levant has been to every one of those. He's been to loads of court cases here and he's tweeted out every time. No problem at all. This time he started tweeting and he got into trouble, and in the end he got actually kicked out of the court. When they did let him in, when he produced his credentials the next day, they still kicked him out. And I thought, is this trying to discredit Tommy as a journalist so that he can't claim the protections of journalism for his case?
If someone told me 10 years ago just how corrupt the UK was, I would have thought, no, it can't be that corrupt because we'd all know about it. Now that my eyes are open, I mean, it's in plain sight, the corruption now.
Yeah.
So as a military man that signed up for the country and you're seeing these lovely flags, every other country in the world you go to, they wave their flags with pride. Yet we're lambasted and chastised and accused of being racist and bigots and causing division because we just want to restore national pride. How does it make you feel? It's a bit of a feelings question, this one, but it's important to know that you made massive sacrifices for that flag. How does it feel when you see these detached lunatics from the left going out of their way to rip them down and take them down and accuse patriots of being divisive as opposed to somebody that just wants their country back?
I am extremely angry. I am irate. I am fuming about it. People that I know, just in case you don't know, I was sent down to the Falklands on HMS Sheffield, which was the first ship to get sunk by an Exocet missile from the Argentine side. So I was on board it when it was hit. 20 of my shipmates were killed defending part of our heritage, part of our sovereignty, and we flew the flag. They went down there. We had the Union Jack on the ship. We were full of pride of what we were doing for our country. And to have all this devalued since then by the steaming, stupid left makes me very angry. And it should make everyone angry. A lot of people in this country don't realise that the sacrifices of their forefathers, their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers, to what they went through to achieve this country and its greatness. And I don't say greatness in anything other than pride. We have a good culture, and that's proven by the number of people that come over here. They want to come over here, don't they? In fact, they demand to come over. It's almost as if it's their right to come here. Then why do they want to change it into something they left behind? No one's got a problem if people integrate, if people are together and they say, right, yes, okay, I'm going to leave my past behind me. This is my new home. This is my new flag. No one's got a problem with that. No one. But I don't feel we're going down that path, and I don't think the hard left, the communist left, will let it go down that path. They're determined to destroy this country as a proud nation, a proud sovereign nation. So I get very angry.
Yeah, and not one of them has done a single thing, to my knowledge, to contribute towards the growth of the country or the expansion or the peace or the harmony of the country. They're just hell-bent on creating division themselves. It's a self-projecting narcissistic trait that they all have. And without going too deep, but just to give these people, because haters watch this show as well as the people that love and they want to learn a little bit. You know, to actually lose men at war, people that you stood and slept side by side with and shared beers and stories and secrets. What is it like to lose someone that you work with and love and that you're fighting with?
It's very hard. Just think about your own close friends if it happened to them. These people didn't put it on the line for a criminal enterprise. They didn't put it on the line for pure political reason. What they did was they did this for the country, for the people that live here, for you and for me and for our children and our grandchildren. That's why they went down there. That's why the people went into the Second World War. That's why people have suffered and died for this country to make it what it is. And someone, somewhere along the line, has decided to, I would say, try to destroy everything that has been achieved. And I do not agree with that. I will fight them. I will fight them politically, of course. I will fight them all the way to make sure we do not go down that path. And we need to get rid of the current incumbents in government, and we need to completely eviscerate the last lot. They need to go, and we need to move forward with a united kingdom. This multicultural experiment is not about uniting the country. It's about having disparate cultures across the board doing their own thing. And when you move from one area to another, you're meant to change the legal system or something. That is not right. One country, one legal system, one country, one culture. That's it. I'm sorry, but that is it. The Americans wouldn't stand for this. They're not standing for it. Other countries, Japan has just elected a prime minister to make sure it doesn't happen there. So we should be doing the same here.
Yeah, we need a Trump-style leadership that's full of national pride and respects patriotism. Because I think where the politicians have gone wrong, from where I'm sitting, they've underestimated the patriot movement, the people that genuinely love the country and love everything that it stands for and want it to remain the same. They don't want this multicultural change. And let's look at the problems that it brings. We've seen children being raped from these migrant hotels, Epping being one of them. You know, they released the guy from jail by mistake. Wow. And I've got to mention this because it's embedded in my brain.
Right.
And I'm furious, and I'm very upset about it, that Afghan migrant went on a rampage in Hillingdon.
Yes.
And he stabbed 3 people multiple times, 1 person to death. He got him from behind. He was walking his dog. He was a local binman. He was a carer of the community. I've spoke to people that live up that road. They had nothing but nice words to say about him. And this Afghan migrant, now we know what mindset they've got. They were born and taught to hate everything about us, and they do want us dead. It's jihad what we witnessed there. And to think that he come over illegally in 2020 on a lorry and then 2 or 3 years later was granted asylum it's the biggest betrayal I've ever seen to mankind and to our country. So I just want to bring that to the forefront of people's minds, not to forget what we're walking amongst. Because all these hotels that are being flooded with men from places like Afghanistan. Don't kid yourself that there's going to be a percentage of them in there that are radicalised. And we don't know when they're going to strike or how they're going to strike. And we've just seen only a few days ago that they're prepared to strike as and when they feel fit and necessary. And how the media are going to smooth this out, I don't know. But let's go more back to you. But I just want to pay that man that lost his life maximum respect. And
absolutely.
It's a horrendous shame. And what's it going to take for the UK to wake up and put a stop to this? Our leadership and our government, in my opinion, and I don't say this lightly, are scum.
Yes.
They have led us into the lion's den, and they're watching us get savaged to death. But on a more chirpy note, let's focus on your life. A lot of people are angry, man. What made you join the submarine service? Because it's not exactly your ordinary job.
Exactly why I joined it. It's not your ordinary job. Being in the armed forces is not your ordinary job, although it used to be, going back to the 50s. And now almost no one knows anybody who's in the Army, Navy, or Air Force. You never see a uniform because they're actually told not to wear them in public, mostly, which is a shame.
Why is that?
Danger. I do see them occasionally, but not as much as I would like to. I'd like to see a lot more of them out and about, drawing attention to the fact they do exist.
Yeah.
And that's important. But I joined up. It was a two-pronged thing. I'd always wanted to join the armed forces since I was, little tiny tot. And I joined sort of things like the Scouts and the Air Cadets, and I loved going out camping, orienteering, all those things, polishing my boots and all the, all the stuff that kid cadets get up to. I loved it. And I wanted to join the armed forces. And the Royal Navy was doing a really good apprenticeship scheme. So I went for that. It really was top-notch, 5-year full technical apprenticeship. You get paid all the way through, and you go to sea, and you visit foreign climes. So you got money in your pocket, places to go, and it's all paid for. Brilliant. So I loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. When I finished that, I went to Dartmouth because they wanted me to become a warfare officer. So I went off to Dartmouth for a year and a bit, and also did some time at sea as well. And then I ended up, as I say, my first big sort of ship as a midshipman was HMS Sheffield. But after that, I came back and I thought, I'll try this submarine thing. It's challenging, it's secret, super secret. You talk to a submariner, can't tell you anything. Where have you been? Can't tell you. Where are you going? Can't tell you. What's your name? Can't tell you. It's that sort of thing. Back in the day, it was stuff that no one knew about. And you were using kit that no one had an idea about and how it worked. And where you went to employ using it was a secret. And the biggest one of all was where the nuclear deterrent was, the submarine. Got a big submarine with nuclear missiles on it, out there, continuously at sea, every single day, 7 days a week, and 52 weeks a year. And it's called continuous at sea deterrence under Op Relentless. It's relentless. It just keeps going. And so I wanted to sort of be a part of that, and that's why I joined up. It's in a sort of an elite service.
So talk me through the moment where you close the hatch and you're in the submarine and then you're down there and you just don't reappear for months.
Oh, yeah, it can be weeks and months in certain circumstances.
Claustrophobic, anxious?
Actually, it
scares the shit out of me thinking about it.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, the Royal Navy training, before you even set foot in one of these things, they're training you about it. They're asking you, they're finding out about you. You have to learn a lot more than most sailors. You have to have more knowledge about how these things work. It's very in-depth. And so when you go on board a submarine, you do begin to feel comfortable quite quickly. And there is a set routine. It's not like you just go in and sort of go, oh, I think I'll do this today, or I think I'll do that, like the rest of us do. It's really a case of, here is a set procedure and you're going to follow this. I'm not saying it's robotic or anything. It's a very demanding, high thinking. You've got to be thinking on your feet all the time, listening. And because submarines, like ships, tanks, aircraft, they're dangerous things. They've got to be handled properly. If you know what you're doing, you handle it properly, you won't have a problem. But if you start treating it in a blasé fashion or anything, it's going to hurt you. It really is.
You've got to be pretty headstrong. I mean, how does it feel to know that once you're down there, potentially you're not going to see daylight for weeks? That would make me very nervous. But I can get quite claustrophobic.
Yeah, some people do get a bit claustrophobic. Some get over it, some don't, and they end up leaving. But also, when you work on nuclear submarines, which we used to have diesel-electric submarines, little ones or smaller ones, but we got rid of all of them. We now have nuclear only. And every single person went... all of what I'm saying, I have to couch in the fact that I left the Navy 25 years ago.
Right.
Okay, after 26 years service. So you get the idea. I'm out of date in a lot of things, but the overall picture is still the same. So it's you get sort of used to these these things, and the training is extremely, as I said, extremely good. You get comfortable with it, but when you're going into nuclear submarines, you usually have a psychological examination, because what they've got to do is determine that you're mad enough to do it in the first place. So,
did you qualify?
I qualified with A+*****. So, yeah. So you went through that and you had a little chat. It was nothing, just a sort of eyeball to eyeball with a psychologist or psychiatrist, and yeah, you're good to go. And because you're so hardworking down there, it's not like you sit around twiddling your thumbs. On a submarine, when you're on patrol, for example, you do 6 hours on watch, 6 hours off, 6 hours on watch, 6 hours off for the entire duration.
Wow.
Yeah, and everyone else is doing the same thing. And there are a few people who sort of day work, but because of all the other responsibilities they have, it really is demanding on their time anyway. Every sailor is an expert in at least one thing and can do loads of other stuff. When you join a nuclear submarine, everyone has to know the basics of nuclear technology and how a reactor works. They have to know how how an HPS system works, how the hydraulics works, where the main things to twiddle with are. If there's an emergency in this room, what do you do? Oh, I do that and I do that. Everybody is taught all that, and they have to know all that.
What was your area of expertise?
My area of expertise was navigation, and because I was one of the officers of the watch.
Right.
So there were two of us. So we were basically running it's actually a boat, believe it or not.
Right.
There's a long history to that, but it's not a ship, it's a boat. And so we were the officer of the watch, and we'd run the entire submarine on a 6 hour for 6 hours. And the engineers at the back behind the reactor. So you had the submarine, then the nuclear reactor, then the engineering department where they do all the steam generation and stuff and all the rest of it to make the submarine actually move through the water. So we had this dirty great nuclear reactor, which was there. And as you see, I haven't got two heads, so it can't possibly have, affected me that much being near a nuclear reactor. And I used to have to walk across that nuclear reactor twice a day, there and back, to go and brief the engineers on what was going on. Because one of the things we liked to do was to keep all the ship's company abreast of what's going on tactically. Why are we here? Where's the Russians? Which at the time, that sort of thing. Are there any aeroplanes coming over us? How close are we to the coast? This sort of thing. If we were close to the coast. And we'd go back and we'd brief the sailors on the back end and say the engineers.
And when you're looking out for the enemy, how close did the enemy ever get to you? Did you come under attack?
No, we never came under attack. I can't really speak too much about that other than to say submarines are designed for intelligence gathering and can approach things close enough to get intelligence data from them. And, we even had a huge, great long sonar cable that we trailed out the back behind the submarine. Huge, great long thing. And that picked up loads and loads of sonar data while we were going around. So, other ships, submarines and stuff. So we're gathering intelligence all the time. And long may it be so, because we need to make sure that we're ready for any attack or any threat at all.
And what's day-to-day life like as a sailor in that vessel? Attention's high. I mean, obviously, people have got to get on. If people are hungry, I can imagine there's a few fallouts. What's the general vibe in there like? Are you on a knife's edge? I mean, are you in constant fear, or do you just forget about the dangers?
You just get on with life, and you've got a job to do, which takes up 12 plus hours of your day, as you could imagine, and everybody is the same, and they're working towards the sole aim of operating that submarine or the ship or the tank. It's not just me in a submarine; it's across the board, or in a helicopter. Wherever it may be, there are always dangers. There's heavy machinery that can move around. and some of it can be very, very hot, as you could imagine. So you just get on with it. You learn and you get on with it. And most of the time, 99% of the time, everyone just gets on and they just do the job. The food is fantastic. The first submarine was on a diesel-electric boat, had a little tiny galley, about half the size of this room. And they could produce on a Saturday night 100 steaks cooked to order.
What about shark?
Shark? Oh, yes, shark. Now,
have you had any encounters with sharks?
I had an encounter with sharks, with a shark, which is a little bit offbeat. I went to doing some rounds on the upper deck of a ship I was on, and I went round to the port side. And there was a guy, because we were taking a break and the ship was stationary in the water, basically, and he was fishing over the side with a little fishing rod. And he was just, and I said, caught anything? He said, no, there's nothing out there. Great expanse of ocean. I've got the place where there's no fish. Right, okay. Just then, one of the big doors opened, these big armoured steel doors that their ships have, clanged open, and out climbed this chef, big guy. And he looked at this guy and said, what are you doing? I'm fishing. And he said, no, you're not. He said, I'll show you how to fish. Disappeared for a couple of minutes and came back with a massive meat hook, on a proper meat hook, and a piece of cow or something. And he put the meat on the meat hook and he tied a thick rope, not a fishing line. I'm talking about a thick rope to this hook. And then he just threw it over the side. 30 seconds later, wham, something took it. So by then, it attracted some attention from other blokes around and other sailors, and looked over the side, started hauling this thing, and suddenly realised it was a shark. Had got hold of it within seconds. And they pulled it up and brought it onto the waist of the ship on the gangway, which was about 5 foot wide, something like that. And this thing was there, and it was snapping like mad. Anyway, we had a reason to have someone with an assault rifle available anyway. They were doing something else, and which I won't go into. But he looked at it, and he was about to shoot this thing through the head. He went right up to it, and I said, don't do that. And he said, why not? I said, well, that's an assault rifle. It might either go through the ship or bounce up, ricochet, and hurt someone. So, right, okay. So he made the weapon safe. So he took the round up the spout out, put it in the magazine, put that in his pocket, and then he grabbed the barrel and he hit the shark over the head until he'd done it. We had shark soup and shark steak for 2 whole weeks.
What's shark taste like?
Very strong fish. It is. It's actually very nice, but once in a while, if you get my drift, yeah.
What's the most mentally challenging thing underwater, and how did you deal with the mental challenges that you faced?
The biggest thing is the awe of the ocean. The ocean is unforgiving and it's immense. And when you get the idea of the size of it and you're looking out, I'll give you an idea. I was a submarine, when it's going through underwater, it's like airspace management. Because if there's other submarines in the area, then you want to keep clear of them and you want to know where they are. So you have area designations and all the rest of it to keep them safe from each other. That's the friendly submarines. There could be an unfriendly in there that we don't know anything about. But generally, the friendly submarines have this sort of water space management thing. And nuclear submarines always travel underwater if they can. It's the most efficient way for them to travel. The only reason they'd travel on the surface is if they wanted to get from A to B extremely quickly without bothering about being detected. So they wouldn't worry about it. But if there is one of the reasons you would surface is if the water below you had too many submarines in it already. We were forced to surface in a force 9 or 10 gale. And the force 9 or 10 gale was going that way, and we wanted to go that way. Now, when a submarine is on the surface, the officer of the watch and the lookout, who on a warship would be on a bridge with windows and, all covered. No, they're in a little hole. The bit they call the conning tower is actually called the fin, the big bit on top. At the front, there's a little hole which you stand in. And that's the bridge, really, for for the surface submarine, and you stand in that hole open to the weather. So anything, it's raining or whatever, you got your foul weather gear on, and you get cold, and you just do your 2-hour stint. But we had to go through this storm, and the waves coming the other side were immense, well higher than the fin on the submarine. Now, a submarine has got what's called a low level of reserve buoyancy. It's designed to sink, basically. So when you're travelling along and you meet a wave, it doesn't bob up and down like a ship would. It goes straight through. Right. So you're on the fin and this wave's coming towards you. You know what's going to happen. The water rushes up inside the fin, rushes up outside at the same rate, and it engulfs you. Just you're underwater. So you just take a deep breath, put your head down and wait for the wave to go over. And it's very high above your head. And the thing is that you're wearing foul weather gear to keep you dry, but the water just comes up and it seals your foul weather gear against your body. So that when the wave's gone and recedes, you're still dry inside. It's amazing, and you got a wet face and all the rest of it, and you had to hold your breath. But that went on for 2 hours, every 30, 40 seconds, one of these waves was coming over. When I went down below afterwards, and the guy said, you do realise that when the height of the wave went over, the submarine effectively was at the same depth as periscope depth, i.e. fully submerged with room to spare. And that's what people went through. Just that. Oh, and we were all obviously tied in with shackles and stuff to make sure we weren't hoiked out of the submarine by the force of the waves and all the rest of it. You just had a torch, microphone, and the compass. Go that way, sort of thing, and that was it.
Yeah, it sounds very unnerving. Other than that, was there any moments where you felt completely paralysed with fear that stuck with you and made you realise just how deep in it you are?
Not fear. One of the things that you learn about is that you know that if anything goes wrong, there's a procedure to deal with it. And these procedures are ingrained into every submariner, absolutely ingrained. If there's a high-pressure air burst, you know what to do. If there's a hydraulic burst, you know what to do. If there's a flood, you know what to do. If something breaks, you know what to do. The whole crew. It's all sort of like a machine. So, but I was in one submarine when we'd built it in Barrow-in-Furness, where we build our nuclear submarines. I was there as part of the crew while it was being built. And so I had to go through the submarine. I had to learn all about it, every single nook and cranny of it while it was being built. And then we took it out and we did what's called a deep dive test. Now, can you imagine, this is the first time this submarine's been to sea, and you're now going to take it down to its maximum operating depth. I won't tell you what that is because that's a national secret. But you take it down to that depth and make sure everything works. Okay. Now, if you tie a piece of string, if you go right down to deep diving depth and tie a piece of string from one side of the submarine to another and you come up, the string will break because the submarine shrinks and expands as you go down and expands as it goes up. Okay. And everything is designed with that in mind. However, when we got down to deep diving depth on this particular submarine, there was the loudest bang you can imagine. We got down there, everything's quiet, then suddenly bang. And we all looked at each other expecting the alarm to go off from something or somewhere, so then we knew what we'd have to do. But we were waiting. Nothing happened. So we all relaxed and we were all going around. We were a bit on edge after that for a while, as you can imagine. Is something going to happen? When we surfaced, we found there's a compass on the bridge, as I said, and it's filled with oil so that it can withstand depths. So it goes all the way down. Not only rotates smoothly, it can withstand the depth that you go down to because it's just filled with, packed full of oil. Trouble is, there'd been an air bubble in there somehow. So the air bubble was pressed, the whole thing and it cracked the whole unit and it basically blew up. So that was what that was.
Now, you was lucky enough to be in the military before the woke mine virus infected the military and there was no DEI recruitments. I mean, I can imagine it's very much changed. Yes. But what was you able to have a laugh underwater without offending people?
Oh yeah, definitely. this was the beauty of it. We had I can't even say some of the stuff now.
Was there a designated area to masturbate, for example?
Well, there were four cubicles, but no.
Any fights on deck?
Very, very few. You didn't really want to be doing that. I mean, we had a bit of a, you might have a bit of an anger with someone or whatever, but it never, in my experience, went further than that. And if it did, it happened off the ship. It happened elsewhere.
This is probably a very naive question on my behalf, but is there women on deck?
Not during my day. There were no women at sea. Well, I say during my day. During the 90s, you started seeing women at sea on the larger vessels. Now they're everywhere, which is fine if they can do the job. I've got no problem with that. It does put another dynamic, though, into it on the relationship level, which can be a problem, especially. I mean, can you imagine some really dolly, young Wren or whatever coming on board the submarine just as you're waving goodbye to your wife?
Especially if you're a week into your tour and you've not visited that designated masturbatory area, you're going to be walking around with a loaded gun, Jeff.
Yeah, you got well loaded. Yes, yeah.
So when there was no women on deck back in the day and sailors would resurface, I mean, because there's rumours that sailors do a lot of fucking and drinking.
Yes.
So what's the reality there? You resurface, you've not seen daylight for weeks, or women for that matter.
Yeah.
What happens when you resurface and you plot somewhere for a while?
Well, this is the best bit. So,
and you can use somebody else as an example so you don't incriminate yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to do that, yes. Anyway, on a submarine, it's so cramped that when you go alongside anywhere, whether it be in Portsmouth, Devonport, or abroad, you can't stay on board. You can't live on board a submarine when it's alongside. It's impossible. So what they do is they say, right, we're going to pull into somewhere like Bermuda or Bahamas, somewhere like that, one of these ordinary places that everyone goes to. And what they do is they hire loads of rooms in hotels. This is what they used to do. I don't know whether they still do when I was doing the job. So we go there and they'd hand you a load of money per day to go and feed yourself. So you got a wedge of money and you got a hotel room. Thank you very much, Her Majesty. And off you'd go.
That money got spent in brothels, didn't it?
I couldn't possibly comment on that.
And is it big drinking culture?
Massive, yeah.
Is that on deck and
No,
on
when
shore?
you're at sea, going back years, you used to get a small amount of alcohol allowed per day, 3 of those small cans of beer a day per man or something like that. But I think they've got rid of that entirely now. Like smoking, I used to be able to get 100 cigarettes for 7 pence, and I get allowed 600 a month at that cost.
It's almost like trying to kill yourself for free.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you see, when you leave the armed forces, if you stay long enough, you get a nice fat pension to live off. They don't want you hanging around too long picking up that, do they?
No.
So
feed you fat and nicotine, loads of alcohol, make sure you don't live a long life so they can save on the pension they got to pay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And what about life back on land once you've spent so many years under sea? Is it weird to acclimatise, get used to? Is it too noisy? Is it too chaotic? Do you become institutionalised down there?
Yes, you do. That is within the services. You can become institutionalised. One of the things that shocked me when I was in the Navy, we had everything was well thought through. Everything, you had procedures for everything. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. It's just what it was. So people generally tend to think that if you go into Civvy Street, you're going to go into a factory or into the NHS or something like that, and you're going to have the same sort of thing, and it's completely different. And it's sort of a bit of a shock, and you're going, well, who's in charge? Who's actually running this show? And a lot of the time you can't tell. It seems all a bit loose and fancy-free. I think we've lost something there, definitely, on the civilian side. But that was a bit of a culture shock, that sort of thing. But the things did... When you're away at sea, you're away. It may not be the same these days. You might have electronic availability to TV and radio and stuff. I don't know these days, but in my day, you didn't. So sometimes after a year, you'd hear a song that was raging while you were away, and you've never heard it before. Yeah, never. And you say, "Oh, is that new?" No, it's been out ages. When did that come out? And you suddenly realise, I was at sea during that, so I didn't even know about that fad. I didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
So you've got compartmentalised history in your head, and it's not a bad thing, but it's just something to be aware of.
A little bit like prison, to a certain extent.
I wouldn't know about that. But
No,
yeah.
I wasn't suggesting that you would, but time stands still.
Yeah.
For you,
Yeah,
if you're in jail or you're undersea in a boat, time stands still, but the outside world goes on.
It does.
People that spend a lot of time in jail, in men's jails, they can often form romantic relationships. Was there any sign of that undersea?
In my day, because it was mainly, it was just all men at sea.
Yeah.
If they did, it would be kept. They would be very, very, very careful. In fact, the Royal Navy police, because we used to have a proper Royal Navy police, their job was to hunt that sort of thing down and prosecute people and get them out of the forces.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the thing. And we used to get lectures on it. We used to get lectures on what to look out for.
That's interesting.
We also used to get lectures. A guy used to come round with he had a police pass to allow him to do it. He had a big glass case with lots and lots and lots of different drugs. And he would come round and he would say, right, this is what these different drugs look like. If you see your sailors handling any one of these, you got to report it. Yeah, and show you.
So were the Navy homophobic, or did they not want men catching feelings for each other because it makes them vulnerable?
Was the Navy homophobic? This is quite a good question, because it was seen as a way of maintaining discipline not to have that sort of thing going on, because it does cause problems with people who are homophobic and all the rest of it. And it was very heavily discouraged. I did know a couple of people, but I would just say that they kept it fully to themselves. And I just thought, I'm not going to. One of them was extremely good at their job for a start, and you'd rather have them on your side than not.
Yeah, I wonder if a telltale sign is the size of a sailor's forearms, what they're up to.
Yeah, Popeye, yeah.
Before I ask you about the state of the UK and immigration and the problem, and also how you feel about that for someone that's been so proud to live in the UK, fight for the UK, serve for Queen and country, I'd like to know actually if you'll be prepared to fight for the King now. But before we move to those little subjects, which I think the audience will be very interested in, you're a very modest man, and I know that you've achieved greatness in the Navy. So tell me some of the things that you've achieved. What are your greatest accolades?
Being selected in the first place for this apprenticeship program was a big deal, because not everyone could get in. It's not something you didn't just walk up and say, I want to do that. You had to be specially selected, had to go through a specific induction thing to make sure you had an engineering mind. And it was quite an intense test I had to take, 4 hours, I think it was, sat in one of the recruitment offices. So that was the first thing, and I got in into a place called HMS Fizgard. No longer exists, down in the West Country near Torque Point. And I went through the training, and I've got to say that every person, however they join the armed forces, if they get through the next stage of training, they should feel proud of themselves, because each stage is a challenge. The first 4 weeks, for example, was nothing to do with engineering. It was all about, you're going to learn how to build a bivvy. You're going to learn how to shoot a gun. You're going to learn the basics of infantrymanship. Because at the end of the day, every single person in the armed forces is a potential infantryman. Even the admirals, the generals, and the Air Force marshals. If push comes to shove, they're in the trench with a rifle pointing at the enemy if they have. So they all have to know how to operate these things in rough and ready form. So that was the first bit. It was lots of yomping around, mud. And I joined in January. Mistake, going out and about. And then basically I went through some engineering training for 5 years. And I ended up with, I actually won 3 out of the 4 prizes available at the end of that apprenticeship, which surprised lots of people. Everybody, in fact. I thought I cheated somehow, But some of the things, we had to learn electronics and using a lathe and all this sort of thing. I hope they still do all this stuff. It's brilliant. But in those days, you used to have to solder as well.
Right.
So I built an oscilloscope. If you know what one of those is.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, an oscilloscope.
What is an oscilloscope?
It's a way of looking at waveforms of electrical circuits on a screen, and we had to build our own oscilloscope,
right,
to pass the course, and so that was something. Oh, yeah, I can do that. But nowadays, of course, everything's solid state, so you don't, it's all it's on a board. So you just slot boards into things to make them work. So you don't need to use your soldering iron so much anymore. But I was the dab hand with that. And I went to Dartmouth. Going to Dartmouth and getting the Queen's Commission, that's a big deal for me. Really was. It was the only thing that I put above all of this are my 3 daughters and my 4 grandchildren. They are it. And my friends and the friendships that I've got, the few that I have, strong. You know what I mean? It's strong. Those are the things that really we should value, I think, personally. Loyalty to your friends and all this sort of thing.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Anyway, so getting to Dartmouth, that was a big thing. And I actually ended up getting a first-class academic pass out of Dartmouth, which, once again, my tutor looked at me with a strange look on his face, but that was good. And I think I also came first academically out the whole year. But because they showed me, they had a computer printout, in 1980 it was, 1981. And my house, because it's Dartmouth at the time was run like a public school. So you sort of had housemaster type officers and tutor type officers and this sort of thing. And the housemaster type officer came up with this printout. He said, look, and there was myself and a guy that I got on with very well. He'd come second. And he was pointing, he said, look, you two in my house, first and second, So that was quite nice.
Did you say there's no prizes for second place?
Yeah.
Is there anything you miss about life as a sailor?
I've thought about this a lot. And I chose the time to leave when it was right for me. I'd done everything I could. I wasn't going to get promoted further. I ended up as a lieutenant commander, which is about a major level. So I'd got everywhere that I was going to go. The jobs would become more repetitive. As I say, the last one was handling the nuclear codes and directing the nuclear deterrent on a day-to-day basis. And that, for me, okay, I think I've reached the pinnacle of that. And I left and went and tried to find something else. It took me a long time to find something else that would even begin to match up. I tried the NHS for a while, but I found that was not rewarding for me as a manager because that's all I could do. I wasn't a doctor or anything like that. I went into finance. I was very successful in finance, but the credit crunch came. 2008 wiped me out. So, of course, I sat there going, what am I going to do now?
So when Northern Rock went bust.
That's right, exactly. And I was trying to sell mortgages, investments, insurances, and all this sort of thing to people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I thought, had enough of that. So I started a website with my now business partner, Richard, and we just did sort of stuff on that, and we made a little tiny bit of money out of it, but it wasn't anything. And then one day we had Brexit, and I was working towards Brexit, and I was a member of UKIP and all the rest of it. I actually ended up as the deputy mayor of Shaftesbury. So I was voted in as a councillor, town councillor, and became the deputy mayor of Shaftesbury as a UKIP member. Now, Shaftesbury is highly Liberal Democrat. So the fact that I was selected to do that, and I remember the first day I went into the council after being elected, all the others were looking at me. They were circling around the table looking at this strange person who had been elected as a UKIP councillor in this area. And they were sort of, and within 3 weeks, they were coming up to me, talking to me, asking me questions. What do we need to do about this? And they said, you're not UKIP, really, are you? You're just nothing like UKIPers. And I said, you obviously don't know any.
Yeah.
I said, you never judge a cover by the book you're given by the press, as we found out.
Cool, haven't we just?
Yeah. So never do that. Look at the guy. Look at the person involved. Every single person on this planet is flawed. And in my estimation, the more flaws that come out is because they've tried harder, they've done more. The more failures you've had is probably because you've tried more things. You get my general drift on this. Anyway, so I did that, but...
Did they ask you for any tips on how to kill a shark?
No. In fact, I've told very few people about that story and most of this stuff.
Let's just say that King Charles was the monarch when you were serving for the country.
Yeah.
Would you have been comfortable fighting for him?
I would have fought for the country under any monarch, anyone. And I still will fight for the country under whatever monarch. But I can understand why some people won't fight for the country because of their beliefs, because of what they've been told about the country, and about what they've been told about how the country got here. A lot of people are misled about slavery, for example. The Royal Navy stamped out slavery. It stamped it out, and it cost sailors' lives. It cost ships. It cost a massive national debt, which he only paid off 10 years ago.
Try telling David Lammy that.
I have got no time for that man at all. No time at all. But it doesn't matter it's the country. It's the country. It's the people who live here. And it's the general quiet majority, the silent majority, or as some people like to call it now, the silenced majority.
And do you think King Charles is doing Great Britain proud at the moment? I suppose is another way to frame that question.
No, he's not doing himself any favours. He's not doing us any favours. He is also the head of the Church of England. He's meant to be the defender of the faith. He's not defending the faith. He's off out kowtowing to the Roman Catholics, and he's kowtowing to the certain demographic religion as well. And this is not the way to go ahead. It's in far from uniting the country, it's just splitting it apart. Now, I will own up to the fact that the only reason the Church of England exists in reality is because a king, years and years and years and years ago, Henry VIII, decided he wanted to go and bonk about a bit. He wanted some more wives. And the only way to achieve
He sounds like a sailor.
Guess what? Guess what he founded? The Royal Navy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so the Royal Navy dates back to him. And it's one of the reasons people, when I joined up, I didn't actually have to swear allegiance because the Royal Navy belonged to the monarch anyway. That was the whole idea. Whereas the Army and the Air Force, because they were latecomers to this defence thing. But nowadays, they are required. There's a statute law that says that you have to swear allegiance to the Crown.
Before I ask the final set of questions, I need to ascertain whether you think Great Britain at the moment is in a real bad place.
We are in a bad place, and it's getting worse.
Okay.
I'm a Professor David Betts believer on this one, who has said there is no political off-ramp. He's an expert. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an expert in civil strife.
And what does he mean by there's no political off-ramp?
That we're not going to vote our way out of this. He is of the belief that at some stage or other there has to be some form of civil conflict. And the more I look at it, because every single move either side makes now is met with more and more pushback. And it's going to come to a head. Look at what the police are going through at the moment. They thought it'd be easy. They just keep pushing the Brits away, keep dealing with the Brits in a harsh manner, and in the end, we'll all get to live together and work together and all the rest of it. But the other side decided that they wanted more, and this is caused. At the end of the day, I talk to a lot of people quietly, friends and other people, and they're telling me, and I read it in the press. Just go in some of the press comment sections. Like the Telegraph, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff they're saying about this in there. Things are going to come to a head. Professor Betts has said there is no midway path. One side has got to win, and there is no political way to meld the things together. They just thought it would happen. They just thought that let lots of people in, and within a generation, they'll be just like us. They'll think like us. They'll have forgotten their religion.
So you think we're heading for civil war?
I think we are severely on that side of the scales. And people talking about stuff like remigration, which is one way of dealing with it, but you've got to then convince those to remigrate. And that's when things start getting a bit, I mean, we heard it this weekend, didn't we? This is our area.
Tower Hamlets,
yeah. A group of lefties were shoved aside by a group of Islamists. And he said, well, why are you doing that? We're on the same side. No, we're not. That was it.
Yeah, you see that clip there. I mean, we're seeing the unholy alliance form again, just like they did in Iran 1979.
Oh, yes.
That clip that you just mentioned, that needs to be watched on repeat by the people on the left. So just to echo what you said there, the stand up to racism, which there is no racism to stand up to, the loony left, the virtue signalling communist morons, they're propping up the Islamists that are marching through the streets in a militant fashion.
Very militant, masked the lot.
Yep,
yeah.
Balaclavaed up. And then when the leftist tells the Islamist that we're on the same side, pay attention, they've told you. The Islamist told the leftist communist, we're not on the same side. He pushed back and said, yes, we are. He reiterated, no, we're not. Pay attention to that.
Yeah, and if you don't pay attention, that's why we're going where we're going. And the lefties have got to soon realise that actually, if they want to be on the right side of history, they've got to join with us, really. But I don't see that. They want an open borders, one world government type setup where the experts are in charge and tell you what
police.
to... Yeah, all of that, absolutely.
Straight out of the Marxist book.
Correct. Yeah, that's what they want. And it's not what I want to see.
So what my question was going to be, now that I know that we agree that the country is in terrible shape and we're heading for devastation, I was going to ask you, because I know that you pay close attention, and I know that you don't just sit there on your armchair getting your information. You go out there and you seek it and you source it yourself, which is how we've got to know each other.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know from your point of view, because I like getting everyone's perspective, how did we get in the mess that we're in? How does it make you feel? And what's the solution?
Right. The way we got in this mess was we left people to get on with running our institutions. And they started by filling our education system with the lefties, and that just continued. And that is being fed through all the way through, right up to the top notch. If they now fill up our schools and our university lecturers' spaces, which they do, and you can see it, then all the product that comes through, all the training, all those young kids goes through there. And then they go into the workplace, where the workplace has been taken over by DEI. This is part of the problem. And they hate the British way of life. These people hate Britain. They want to bring it down. So that's where it sort of starts, and it just escalates from there. And I get very angry about it because we got there by not paying attention. When people vote, they have a choice, don't they? Do I vote for the red or the blue rosette? And they're told, don't think about it. Just vote for us to save the NHS. They both say it. And that's as far as they think the thinking goes. People need to now start paying attention to these people and what they're really doing and saying. And I think that's happening. As social media expands and people like us are on talking about this sort of stuff, I think ordinary people are saying, well, actually, we've been fed a bunch of horseshit all over these years. These people are now beginning to talk sense to me. And I agree with what they're saying. So we need to go, with them and their thoughts. And I've said this to so many people, and that the only reason that I exist on YouTube is because those absolute tossers in Westminster and in Whitehall aren't doing their jobs. If they did their jobs and looked after the country properly and the people in it, I would have nothing to talk about, ever.
Well, you're not on your own, because it doesn't matter who I have on the show, no matter what the subject matter, the story, the life experience, the journey they've done, and this can be anything from true crime to porn stars to political activists to journalists to actors, reality stars. No matter what their story is, we will always find our way to the concern of the country, the fear of the nation, the destruction, the imploding of Great Britain, the way we've just allowed this to happen, and everyone's scratching their heads thinking, how did we get here? What's the solution? I know how it makes people feel. It makes them feel frightened. and helpless and anxious.
Back in the 1950s and 60s, I think most people would have looked at a government, looked at a politician and thought, I disagree with them. But in the final analysis, if they're in Parliament, they're going to work for the country. They're going to work for the betterment of the country. And I think that's what most people feel when they're talking about politicians back then. We're now getting the idea, aren't we, that these politicians are not working for us in any shape or form. And there's, at some stage, there became a disconnect, and people's trust was misused by these people and by the establishment. And as time goes on, for some reason, everybody's now working far harder than they used to, far harder. Some people have got 2-3 jobs just to keep a roof over their head, and they're too busy, actually, to do a lot of this. They're too busy to even have children and bring up a family, which is a big issue for me, because without children, we're dying out. We're going to die out. And part of the reason for all these people coming in is to fill that gap. And the global population is going to start falling. Yes, falling by the end of this century. It's going to start going down. The countries that normally have huge numbers of children are beginning not to, because they're becoming more advanced. They don't need to have so many children. Back in the day, a woman in, say, Yemen would need to have 8 children so that 2 could survive to keep her in her old age. Yeah. Well, you get the idea. Now that's reduced to 4 or 5, and it's coming down. And it's the same across the world. And when we run out of babies, when we have too few babies, we have too few taxpayers and too few workers. Now, some people say AI is going to come to the rescue. I don't think it will. I think that's another red herring, but in certain ways. But children, we need children. Without children, and we were misled by the United Nations on that. There's a thing called the United Nations report from the year 2000, and it exists, and it is called replacement migration. It exists. It's a real thing. When you read it, it just says, well, if you're not having babies, you've got to import people to keep your economy going. What it doesn't say is actually you could have more children. You've got to change your national makeup to have more children, to have family-friendly policies to have children. And that never seems to be mentioned. All it is you've got a falling birth rate, import people. And the more people you import, it's a false boost to GDP, because the more people you have, the more people you've got to feed. That boosts GDP. It's all a scam. Yeah,
we need to procreate more. We need more sailors in the UK with that Randy mindset.
With that mindset, absolutely. As Ben Habib said, because I had a chat with him, and he said, bonking for Britain is required.
Yeah, what a great quote. I'm gonna put Jeff's links to his YouTube and his X channel in the description here, so please go and give him a follow. And his work's great on YouTube, very unique. And like and subscribe to this channel so I can keep bringing you guests like Jeff, because the mainstream would never platform him because he speaks far too much truth. And before we wrap this up, is there anything that you'd like to end this conversation on? Whatever you want to say, a message to people that subscribe to me, or just anybody.
The big message is that listen to people like Liam, listen to people like me, listen to people like Maya Tusi, listen to people like Richard Inman, listen to them all, listen to everybody. Paul Thorpe. If you don't, you're not going to get the full picture, and you will from them. You'll get different aspects of a completely new way of looking at things. This social media is a massive boon as long as it's used in the right way. The mainstream press is misleading you every single day, and you need to, I say, wake up. Just seek out alternatives. Don't just say the BBC is right all the time, because it isn't. If I could throttle anybody over the reporting of Gaza, it would be the BBC. Tommy has done a better job in a few days than the rest of the media put together. I've listened to a couple of his things he said, and do you know something? I've done a lot of research. I've never been there. I've done a lot of research on Israel, and I say I agree with everything that Tommy says, because as far as I'm concerned, he's talking to people on the ground who I've listened to. Yeah, he's talking the truth about this. The mainstream press is letting us down. So Tommy as well, follow him.
It's funny you say that. I've just come back from Israel, yes. I spent 7 days there. I spoke to as many people as humanly possible. I got 800 metres away from Gaza. I wanted to know the truth, because all I've seen is people commentate on the conflict, and none of them have been there. I've not spoke out about it because it's above my pay grade. I wanted to go there. I wanted to learn. So I went out there. I wasn't paid to go out there, by the way.
No shekels.
No shekels. No shekels. All these conspiracy theorists. Yeah. But yeah, it was an eye-opener, and that's a conversation for another day, because I am going to touch base on my trip to Israel, because it blew my mind. And then, what I will say is, as a bit of a cliffhanger, I was privy to a 44-minute video that was taken from Hamas body cam footage, first responders, the CCTV before it got dismantled, and people's iPhones that were at the kibbutz and the Nova Festival. I saw more torturing and slaughtering than I care to imagine, and I never want to see it again. And our government officials... Now, I was told in this room where I was watching this video that David Lammy has been in the same room and he's watched it, and still nothing changes. Every time they're slaughtering innocent people, they're screaming Allah Akbar without fail. And I've never seen anything so gruesome. And if people are naive enough to think that there's not a percentage of that mindset in the UK now, 40,000 of them on the terror watch list, and there's no saving them. And people need to understand the difference between an Islamist and a Muslim, because I've got Muslim friends that I went to school with that go out, drink beer, sniff gear, have sex with Westerners. That's the reality of it. Yeah. And then when they're in my DMs or my WhatsApp saying, you got a problem with Muslims, I'm like, are you here to spread the caliphate? Do you think it's okay to have sex with a teenage girl that's just had her first period? Do you want to eradicate the West? No. Well, I haven't got a problem with you.
Exactly.
You're a moderate Muslim, but I'll tell you what they said in Israel when I kept saying to them, what's the solution for peace over here? Because 20% of Israel is Muslim.
Yes.
And they coexist quite peacefully because there's national pride. And Israel will say, we do not fuck around here. It's our culture first. And they accept that. And every time I kept asking somebody over there, what's the solution? Every time without fail, they said, the solution is for the moderates to speak up against the radicals. Yes. So anybody that tunes into this channel that thinks Muslims are getting bashed week in, week out, because at the moment everyone wants to talk about it, it's Islamists we have the issue with. I'm well aware that there's peaceful Muslims and they just treat the Quran like a buffet and take the bits that suits. But really, we need you to stand up and push back against the radicals, or we're done. So on that note, I'm not a religious man, but come back from Israel, I feel like I better pray for a better, brighter future. And as for you, I think you're a lovely human being, a wonderful man, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I look forward to when you come back on.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been really great. Nice to chat with you.
Yes, darling. Good elf, sir.
Cheers,
Jeff.
Cheers.